Another question I have, and the last question really is also something that we share as an art historian with whose academic training didn't include leadership and management skills. What was the learning curve like when you took on the caucus presidency, and how did your work with the caucus intersect with your academic career?
Well, becoming president of a growing national organization with no prior management skills whatsoever was indeed a huge learning curve. But I didn't think of it that way, because I felt like I was finally taking part in a grown-up world. I think I experienced agency, real agency for the first time, significant agency, I should say, and it felt like power. It really felt like power, and it was, I suppose, in a sense. But I remember Annie Shaver Crandall, another WCA president, following me, had several others, like to quote me as saying something I didn't remember saying even, that she said that I had said to her, it felt like walking in 7-league boots. Yeah. And, so I think that means something to anybody who's played this role, and perhaps that signifies for you too, this sudden sense that you can do something. Yeah. You're able to actually do something. I think it was particularly true of my generation, perhaps more than subsequent ones, because we grew up schooled to be good girls, passive and powerless. It was the normal condition of women, unless you really sort of took charge of things. But suddenly, so many of us found ourselves taking active charge of our own lives, committing ourselves furthermore to a cause that empowered us. It made us feel that we could do something in the world, and something important. So that sense of agency, I think, enabled me, certainly when I was president, to act in a way that I suddenly felt the freedom to invent things. Not just me. I mean, we were all, as I said earlier, inventing our agendas as we went along, creating projects for ourselves. And to act on a larger stage, and all that was really very important to us. I should say at the same time about that, however, that it was professionally risky for women to be openly feminist in their academic careers. Many women that I heard about were tainted by feminism, turned down for jobs that they were well qualified for because of this. I personally was lucky in already having a job when this came along, and by the 70s, I was tenured, so I had nothing to risk there. And I would say also that American University was unusually open to feminist activity among schools that we heard about at the time. As it turned out, as it happened in those years, the provost, the dean of the college, and senior colleagues were female. It's just one of those flukes and so they were very supportive of Noma's and my work, for example. And AU has always been a socially activist university, and aspiring to be, ranked a little higher maybe than they were. They were actually proud of our work and achievement in a way that other colleagues in other schools did not have that experience. And the other thing about, you say, how did the work with the caucus intersect with my career? Well, I brought my activism straight into the classroom. And having been, in touch with so much that was going on in the country at the time, I created a Women in Art course right away, as soon as I could. And I introduced what turned out to be one of the first Women in Art courses in the country. And again, I was not unique, but I was very happy to be creating that too. And this was long before these Women in Art courses that art historians introduced were an important contribution to the larger effort of discovering women artists more widely. And then Judy Chicago's the Dinner Party, which drew on research that had already been done by feminist scholars, but then her researchers went even farther and dug up even more. But that was part of a very huge effort to discover, to recover that past.
That's wonderful. I love that you brought the activism, brought the feminism into the classroom, and that's where it's just taken root and flourished since then. That's wonderful.
We have to. I mean, if I remind you listeners of the horror stories of the old days. It's really so that we can take stock of how far we've come. I remember when I first wanted to teach that women in art course, and I approached my department chair, who was a woman, as a matter of fact, and I said, I want to do this, and she said, but what would you do all semester? And indeed, she wasn't wrong, because she was an artist for herself, but she had no idea of her own history.